Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird.
And if that mockingbird don't sing, Mama's gonna give you a text message ping.
And if that ping don't show up soon, Mama's gonna buy you a red balloon.
And if you fly up and float away, Mama's gonna warn you every day.
And if you rise back from the dead, Mama's gonna buy you some Grateful Dead.
And if you suddenly become a hippie, Mama's gonna bring you to Mississippi.
And if that state is not the best, Mama's gonna buy you a golden crest.
And if that crest tells your family history, Mama's gonna solve an ancient mystery.
And if that mystery is too spooky, Mama's gonna get you a chocolate cookie.
And if that cookie attracts a monster, Mama's gonna gonna deliver you some delicious flan, sir. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Muprov Musings. This is episode 50. I'm one of your hosts, Hal Munger, and joining me now on the line is your preposterous host, Julian Bernardo.
You call me preposterous every day, and yet I come in with the best facts. For example, you said joining me on the line. Did you know that that used to refer to a real telephone line, an actual line of cable that went between houses and buildings and people?
Preposterous. As we know, back in the day, you'd have to queue up for hours just to get onto a television program. And when we were saying joining me now on the line, we were talking about those poor souls waiting outside the studio.
Well, if you have an idea about which of these facts is right without looking it up, you can mail in to muprovmusings@gmail.com and let us know. We're kind of doing like a Smosh style food battle, kind of whose fact is right, voter vote in kind of thing. So just let us know.
Yeah, Muprov Musings doesn't have sponsorships. We don't do paid ads, but we do waste a little bit of your time. So that's the important information for today. And we're halfway through this little mini mid-quarter. We've had a slow upload season, but we're back on track, and we're doing the idea that we had last time.
Yeah, we are going to essentially do the skeleton of a super scene. So we're not going to go in and perform all of the scenes that are part of the super scene, but we are going to do all of the surrounding bits, which should honestly give you maybe more of an idea of what it's like than if we had actually just done the scenes.
Yeah, and we could think about, oftentimes we talk about a giga spine, right? But a
Yeah.
super scene doesn't have a traditional spine. So another challenge to the listeners is to think about what creature out there has a bone structure that most mirrors a super scene.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's a good thing. I'm thinking, I don't know, it's like a rib cage of sorts, right? There's all these kind of different but maybe equally weighted little bones that are there. But there still is the spine, the through line of the super scene. So maybe super scene is even greater than a normal show because it isn't just this one linear vertebrae on top of vertebrae.
Yeah, I don't know, Julian. I think what I'm looking for is some sort of creature that has four legs and a tail that all rise up into one neck.
Yeah.
But okay, let's get into the actual content. So how this is going to work, different from our normal giga spines, is that we're basically going to be doing everything but the scenes. And then for the scenes, so one of us will be functioning as a director, saying the things that the director would, and then the other one of us will fill in and say what happens kind of in the scene. So it'll be a little bit of a collaboration. We haven't decided, super scenes normally have 5 branches, and we haven't decided how we're going to break that up.
Yeah, I think that whoever is closer to toothpaste should get the third scene.
Okay. I think that I'm about 15 feet from toothpaste.
It was a little bit rigged because I know that I am like 7 feet from toothpaste. I can see it.
Okay. Well, Julian gets the three scenes then. You almost played yourself because I actually had my toothpaste in my backpack,
Yeah.
which is, 2 feet away from me, but I moved it out this morning when I brushed my teeth.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing things that were literally within my hand's reach, but that felt a little bit too scummy. So it was a fighting chance you had, but you failed.
All right. Well, it's okay because I could beat you with only one branch of the super scene.
Okay, we'll
I
see.
think if you get three, I should get to decide which scene gets eliminated first.
Sure.
Okay.
Uh,
Sweet.
and it'll be fun because we're also going to help fill out what are, just as in the regular super scene, the director directs it, but everybody else, aka the other directors playing it, we're not going to be doing these scenes, but the other person who is not the director is going to talk a little bit through about what happened in the scene. Keep the parody there.
Okay. It's been a while since I did this, so I'm excited. Let's welcome audience. You've come to see a super scene. How this is going to work is you're going to see the first scene of 5 different shows. And then Hal and Julian are going to fight it out over which of those scenes gets eliminated. And you'll continue with the next 4 scenes of those shows.
Yes.
But to start it out, we need 5 random words. We're going to generate these words for each other. So, Julian, as the person with 3, you're going to go first. And your word is descent.
You are going to see in my super scene the story of the descent of a young boy who leaves his village and has to venture deep, deep, deep into the chasm of wonders in order to find a cure for his ailing father's ailment.
Mm. In the first scene, we're going to see 2 improvisers. One of them is an extremely ailing father, and the other one is an excitable and imaginative young boy. The father is ready to give up on life. He's got the black lung from all his time spent in the wonderful mine, and he's coughing profusely. The child, however, notices that there's like a hole in their chimney that leads to an impossibly long jump, and is warned by his father that this leads to this special mine. At the end of the scene, you see the child enter into the tunnel and fall Alice in Wonderland style, and all the other improvisers on stage run by with different crazy things that are happening. And then the child eventually thumps down on the ground and everything goes black. You don't see what happens in the Wonder Mine yet.
Oh, that's charitable to give me the cliffhanger. Thank you.
And let's give the child a name as well.
Yeah. Lazarus.
Lazarus. Lazarus in the Wonder Mine.
Well, you are the next director, and your random generated word is solid.
All right, friends. What you're going to see on this epic super scene adventure is a metaphorical exploration of the different states of matter that exist in the world. Overlaid using human psychology onto real world relationships. Our starting test case is a solid state relationship between Pamela and Frederick, 2 roommates who have grown up together in the same hometown and just moved into a new apartment in Miami, Florida.
So in this scene, we see the two newly moved in discussing pretty realistically, things about their relationship, and they're pretty tight with one another. But and so it's played relatively groundedly. However, at a certain point in the middle, the director will call out pause, and then one of the improvisers who is off stage might come up to the front and narrate, the molecules are starting to move quicker and quicker, breaking from their chains, and scene resumes, and maybe there's a little tick and there's a little bit of some fire in the discussion, and we have this heated up until we have more and more interjections from off stage of melting, 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 melting. And then eventually, upon a big line delivered by one of them to the other, like, I never fucking cared about your cat, we get the final liquid scenes drop.
Amazing. Everything I could have hoped for in this scene. All right. Julian, your next random generated word is true.
True. Okay. So this is going to be the actual 100% true story. There will be no lies told, no farce, no theater, just a simple, realistic biopic on some random audience member's life. So after I get the suggestion, I'm gonna ask for an audience member to give me a couple facts about themselves. So maybe you can give me a couple facts about a theoretical audience member.
Sure. This audience member hops up. They are a middle school art teacher. They are 26 years old. They live in Colorado. They love to play board games.
All right, I'm gonna say thank you. Thank you for that. We're now going to see the 100% true story of your life. And as a director, the scene will start, but early on, you can describe what will happen. But early on, I want to give the direction of bigger, 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 just very crazy, massive emotions and stuff that are happening.
Yeah. In this scene, once the scene starts, I'm going to jump on. I'm going to be playing this character's brother, and I'm going to be super cool in this scene. I'm going to try to play it similar to myself, like, a thin veil. But I am pretty cool in real life. So I think that it'll just be a lot of from my character, like comments about how cool I am. And then from the other character, maybe like some pushback. But overall, I think that the scene will focus a lot on the character, the audience member's brother. And as it escalates, the coolness of this brother will escalate. You'll find out that they're really also very, very good at board games, and that they have a great sense of humor and a wonderful smile.
Okay, that's fun. That's a little bit improviser gone wild on stage, but as director, if I picked up that that's your hit, I wouldn't shoot it down. I think it's fun, and it's nice to get away from the audience member a little bit in a way that we don't have to, trance around anything, but still poke fun at the whole concept. So thank you.
Okay.
It loaded, and your word is electronics.
All right. For this, Julian, I need you to get out your phone, your real phone.
It's out. It's right here.
I want you to look at your 5 most recent text messages.
Ooh.
Then I want you to pick the one that you least want to share. And I want you to read that one out.
Okay, it's ones that I've sent, or just ones that I received as well?
Ones that you received.
Okay. I mean, none of them I don't want to receive or like I'm not perturbed by any of them, but I like this one as the one that I read. This is from someone who was on the show, John Mistily. And it reads, "Move as quickly as you safely can." And then there's the praying emoji, the like Italian hand emoji, the cigarette emoji, and the palm tree emoji.
All right. Thank you. So from move as quickly as you safely can. Um, Three contestants awake with no memory on a bizarre game show as a commanding voice gives them further instructions to do some challenges that bond them together and break their spirits.
Oh, so we see these three people who don't know each other start to do the first challenge of having to secure a shelter before nightfall. Because who knows what's going to happen at nightfall, says the narrator. But slowly, the people talking to each other realize that they're all from the same city and they don't know each other at all, but they are starting to realize that there are connections between one another. And as nightfall is beginning to rise, and two people have built their shelter, but the final one has not, uh, we see the unsheltered person become consumed by a monster.
What's that person's name?
Lydia.
Okay. And what kind of monster?
It is a jackal.
Okay. All right. The last one.
Okay.
Um Test.
Test. Okay. Uh, I would like to show you all the most difficult test that there ever was. This is not a test that you would take on paper. This is not a test that you would take behind a steering wheel. But this is the test of parenting. We see this story will be about two parents as they try to parent the most rambunctious and crazy baby that there ever was.
So this is actually going to be like two little scenes stapled together, which is the first scene is just going to be a very tender, loving moment of the parents in the hospital. Um, and they're going to be talking about how excited they are, how it's life's great adventure, and they don't know what it's going to be like, but they're sure that they're ready to face whatever challenges come ahead, and that their parents themselves were unprepared, and that all parents really are unprepared. Um, the doctor comes in and delivers this really cute looking baby. The doctor steps out. I sorry, not deliver. Like they just bring in the baby. The
Yeah.
baby's already been born. The doctor steps out. It's like, I'll leave you two at the baby. And the baby's face suddenly goes like, big smile. And then black. And actually, maybe that's the end of the first scene.
Yeah.
You just see this. And you don't know what comes next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's fun.
We're going to do the elimination round quickly for these, but let's recap. In the first scene,
The first scene was descent. You saw young Lazarus hear from his father about the previously hidden mine of wonders, and you saw him fall to the bottom of this pit. What will he find in this mine of wonders? Only time may tell.
the second scene came from the suggestion solid. You saw a friendship that was starting off very solid decay into melt into its liquid form. Aren't you curious to see what happens in the liquid verse?
Ooh. Third scene. This was the true life story of one of our audience members, the 26-year-old painter who likes board games. But maybe it's actually turning out to be the true life story of this audience member's brother.
Scene 4 was a wonderful scene called Move as Quickly as You Can, based on the suggestion Electricity, in which Lydia got devoured by a jackal for failing to build her Three Little Pigs style house quickly enough. Tune in next to see what happens.
And in the final scene, Pest, you started to see why these parents might see raising this rambunctious little baby as a test of sorts, because it might not go all the way that they described.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the audience voted on this one, and it turns out that the audience member who gave the suggestion about herself was not happy with how her brother portrayed it on stage. And she voted to eliminate the true scene. So the other 4 scenes will be continuing on.
You are really missing the plot here. If you had actually watched the rest of the truth scene, sure, everybody starts off from humble beginnings. I know we made it seem like your brother was much cooler than you, but by the second scene, by the end of that second scene, you would have been the most baller, artistic, epic art teacher that there ever was. And this happened when you were 14 and you were a child prodigy of sorts. So it's fine that you didn't want the rest of the audience to see how cool you were, but that is not going to happen now.
Tragic, but the show must go on.
Okay.
Let's see what happens in the descent.
In descent, Lazarus awakes at the bottom of the dark chasm and sees just a friendly seeming but kind of occupied anteater person. So this is like a anthropomorphized anteater who is scrounging around for ants at the bottom of this chasm. And Lazarus tries to orient himself by asking the anteater, who we find out is named Tully, where he is and how he could find the antidote. And
the antidote. Well, you join. This is also you're giving the opening direction for this scene.
Oh, okay, sure. That's what I was trying to clarify. So yeah. So we start with that. That would be my opening direction.
Okay. Yeah. Tully is a strange anteater, very distracted, lots of long tongue action being generated with a physical hand grabbing ants, and sometimes Tully climbs on top of Lazarus and like licks ants off of Lazarus in a way that Lazarus is kind of like, what is happening? Lazarus again is saying that his father's dying, and the anteater is talking about, oh, well, maybe you need an antidote. Saying, you can really extend your life if you know how to avoid catastrophe. I'm sneezing. Maybe it's all of this dust from the mine. Lazarus tries to ask Tully lots of questions to get into Tully's psyche, and understands that Tully has this compulsion to eat ants and has been staying in the mine way too long. Originally came after the antidote, but got distracted by all of these delicious ants and has stayed in the dangerous zone for too long. Asking why is it called the dangerous zone, Tully says, well, here people are punished for their own flaws. Lazarus is confused by that, but suddenly an enormous nose breaks open a hole in the wall. A giant anteater tongue comes flying out, wraps around Tully and pulls him away into the wall. Slurp, 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 slurp. This echoes backwards for hundreds of meters, and you see like a chain of caverns with increasingly large openings entering into the wonder mine. Gravity turns sideways, and Lazarus falls down those holes after a chain of anteaters all falling into each other's mouths.
Wow. That's so sad. I thought Tully was so cool.
Well, you don't know what happened. Tully's just in the belly of a bigger anteater.
Okay. That's viable. So next we shall see the story of Liquid now.
Oh. Yeah. These two roommates were starting to fight. It was getting very heated, but at the exact boiling point, suddenly it melts into liquid form. The tension of their fight released a subtle attraction among these two roommates that slowly turns into a soft, liquidy, passionate scene. Take it away, Julian.
So while in the first solid scene, they were very stable and were able to, communicate with one another well. They stayed kind of physically far from one another and stayed pretty propped up. But as they melt into the liquid form, their physical movements take a sloppier, more flowy vibe, and they start getting closer to one another and intermixing arms around one another. Kind of, we're trying to create visuals where we can't tell where one person's body ends and the other begins. And as they start enjoying this newfound kind of attraction that they have for one another, they start to lose some of the things that they cared about previously. And so in the first scene, it ended with the big thing about, I don't even care about your cat, right? We hear the cat meowing in the other room, and neither of them even get up to get it. And so the other offstage players start coming on, and particles move faster, particles move faster, particles move faster. And as the people keep coming on and implying this next change of state, we find that the roommates are starting to flagrantly and absurdly care about nothing outside of this room and nothing but each other. They start expanding and jumping around with one another purely in a hedonistic daze. And as one of them grabs alarm clock and throws it at the TV, we hear the final gas.
Wow. Epic. All right. I think you know who's next. And if you don't know who's next, you weren't fast enough. The night is upon us. We see a split scene. Each of the stages shows one of the two remaining contestants in their neighboring houses. Inside the house suddenly opens up a video projection that allows them to see what is going on with the other person.
And this scene is going to be hard to play, but it'll be a fun game that's found early on where they see a video projection of what's happening in the other person's room, but they can't hear exactly what the other person is saying. And so the game master, whoever's in charge of all this, is funneling in specific words to each of the people that is getting them to think that the other person is plotting on their demise. So one of them, Claire, is being told that the other one is when he goes into his dresser that he's fashioning a knife. And Jessie gets told that when Claire clears her desk, she's starting to scribe up the plan to murder Jessie, and that they're both being told that nobody is being forced to do this, but that the other person is just so cold-blooded that they would do such a scoundrelous thing. However, as both of them start to get ready for some sort of battle or attack between each other and, roll up their sleeves, getting into gear, they notice they have the same little birthmark on the top right of their shoulder. And the scene is over.
What? It's like that's like the improv game where someone comes in and like has to endow the space object as something other than what it obviously is.
Yeah,
it's very similar. Okay.
Now, yeah. So we're cutting to the action. We start the scene with, honestly, the only direction that I'll give is that the smiley little rambunctious baby is going to run full way across the stage, and then one of the parents is going to go chasing, and then I'll let the players do what they do.
Okay. So baby flashes through the stage, and then one parent runs in and is just like sort of panting there, exhausted. She kind of collapses on the floor, and you hear like in the other room some Coco Melon like starting to play. The musical improviser starts putting it on, and the mother is already like kind of crying. Father enters and like asks her what's wrong, what's going on. She's like describes a horrendous list of things that the baby has done. It escaped its crib. It dangled from the ceiling light, chewed through all the electrical wiring in the house and the phone lines. So there's no way to contact outside. As the baby also went into the kitchen and grabbed the blender and blended up all the contents of the fridge into baby mush and like has been throwing it at the walls and stuff like that. And the father is very disbelieving of this. It's like, what are you talking about? Our sweet little girl. And the father goes in the next room and comes back with a baby who's just like, what do you mean? Just like super cute and adorable and well mannered. And the mother's looking at her like, what the hell? And the father's like, whoa, like, are you having a mental breakdown? Did you destroy this whole house? Like, what's going on? Because the baby doesn't even talk yet. What are you saying? And the father is very concerned and leaves the room carrying the baby. At the last second, as the father leaves carrying the baby, you see the baby's face turn towards the audience and give its signature smile.
That's good.
Okay, which one do you think we should eliminate? I have a candidate for elimination.
My candidate for elimination would be
you didn't move fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted something else, you should have moved faster. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that one was going anywhere.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of Superscene, right?
So now we've got 3 awesome remaining scenes that are all pretty abstract and strange.
Yeah, they are.
But I mean, this is our aesthetic. So, once other people are directing their super scenes, you get to direct what you like to see. This is what Julian and I like to see. Okay, let's keep going with Descent.
Okay. So we're actually going to start cutting in a bit. So it has presumably been a couple days, and Lazarus is sitting at the table with a group of little like bug people, I guess big bugs compared to how they usually are. So, people-sized bugs, but they're a bit smaller than Lazarus. And it's a dinner table and it's a family where they have like five kids. This is might be a time to literally call up like improvisers in the audience to just be like a kind of absurd amount of kids to be these bug children, but mainly there's maybe like one of the older bug siblings and a bug parent who is taking control here.
Yeah. And of course, these bugs are ants. Because that's how it's gotta be. Yeah, so the ants have a very specific dynamic. There is the mother ant who is the queen, and then this sort of the sibling ants who are both fighting for the queen's attention and trying to give her extra sugar cubes and just get get her affection in whatever way possible. And Lazarus again is trying to get answers about this supposed antidote for his father's illness, but the ants are really preoccupied with these big sugar crystals. And they keep on like offering Lazarus sugar crystals and then being like, well, no, what do you have to get these sugar? What do you have to get these sugar crystals? You want our sugar crystals? You're going to have to do something more impressive than that. And Lazarus is like, no, I don't want the sugar crystals. I just want the antidote. Things ramp up in their strangeness. And the siblings' argument also ramps up in its competitiveness until finally the queen beheads both of them and then eats one of the heads and hands the other head to Lazarus. And then the queen is like, all of my descendants have been killed. Or yeah, maybe she kills all the other improvisers on stage and she's like, enough. And then she's like, all of my descendants have been killed. Lazarus, you must become the next the next ruler of the ants. And Lazarus is like, I don't want to be the ruler of the ants. I just wanna help my father get better. And she's like, foolish boy, like parents only exist to kill their children, not to love them.
Ooh, that's nice.
and Lazarus is like, I can't handle this. And she's like it or not, you are the next ruler. And then she like eats a ton of sugar and like collapses. And the camera pans back and you see like a crowd of like every type of insect like waiting outside the window for the address of the next ruler of the wonder mine.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Good Lord. Oh. Gas. Gas is an interesting state. In some ways, it is hard to even tell that gas is there. It contorts to every whim of those around, but also it is the most frantic, tense, and high energy state. After 4 weeks of intense romance, the roommates have become ghosts in their own home, waiting for the sound of the other's footsteps to walk to a different room before sneaking into the kitchen to gnaw on the rotting food left in the refrigerator. They can hardly stand each other, and yet the energy is more overflowing than it has ever been.
We open on one of the roommates, I don't know that they have names yet. I'm gonna say uh Cruz and Alex. Uh Cruz exits, Alex enters slowly, and probably there's a lot of silence in this scene as Alex creeps over to the fridge and grabs some of the food. We get some fun like flies flying around the food, even though it's in the fridge. Uh, and we contrast the very slow, delicate movements to get to the fridge with the sound of like a toilet flushing. And Alex dashes straight out of the room back to the other room, and Cruz comes out, and it's revealed that they like are living in total disarray, like grabbing like the dish towel to for toilet paper, and they're sort of jumping around from room to room, mostly like a kind of physical comedy game here of increasing how rapidly they're entering and exiting the rooms and providing justifications for what's making them come back into the center room. Uh, except at a pivotal point of maybe toilet flush plus, cat meowing, both of them accidentally rush into the room at the same time and clash with one another.
At that moment, the director cries out, "Plasma!"
Perfect. So, I want the scene to start with the uh, actor who is playing the rambunctious baby standing firmly and adult-like at the center stage, looking into a mirror, ready to deliver a monologue.
Yes. Yes. The baby reaches into his mouth. He removes a pacifier, sucks on it one more time, drops it on the floor, steps on it with his toe and puts it out as though it were a cigarette. Then goes, "Parents. What good are they? Once they've birthed you into this world and filled you up with milk, what more mysteries and pleasures can they provide? Well, I'll tell you this. For me, as a sadist, it is only in their misery that a parent can truly bring a smile to my little baby face. And what you're about to see, if you are a sadist, is a true masterpiece that has never before been done and will never be done again. I fear all the time that I may peak in my 3rd week of existence."
Footsteps from the mother.
Grabs the pacifier. Mother comes in, and she's like, "Oh, baby." And baby pretends to sleep. It's like, "Oh, thank goodness you're asleep." And then the mother's like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Like, you can keep me awake for hours and hours." She's like, "Oh, I guess I could take this moment just to take a tiny nap for a second." And she yawns, slowly leans back, so tired. The baby starts going, mother falls into a blissful sleep, slumber. And then the baby, from its like pacifier, pulls out his pacifier, uncorks it, and you see like a marker, and the baby gives a signature smile.
You can't end that scene without the signature baby smile. Signature creepy baby smile. What last?
I think that's it.
Oh, that was
Round
it. That
3.
was it. Okay.
All right. Who's getting eliminated?
I think so. There's I was also a hype on this whole plasma concept, but solid liquid gas feels like a good 3 runner. I think I would vote to eliminate that one, even though I think it's great.
Fool! You thought solid liquid gas was your classic 3 runner, that plasma was a 4th concept. But you didn't understand that it was all building to the craziest 5th state of quantum matter. That cat that had been waiting in the other room, we're not sure if that cat is alive or dead, because that cat is both alive and dead. And so is this relationship. You don't get to see what happens in the final scene, the 5th quantum scene, because you voted to eliminate it, and thus the relationship will both heal and be destroyed forever. No, okay. I think Julian, you're the only person with skin in the game. Do you want me to take over directing one of your scenes, or do you want to keep going just with your
let's keep doing it how we were doing it. I like the way that you're doing my scenes. So
okay, let's keep doing
them like that. So we open with the 4th descent scene, presumably like a few weeks after the last one. We have Lazarus writing a little diary note in like a military tent of the line starts with I can't track the days nor the weeks. I don't know where I am, how old my father is. All I know is that in this war, we must defeat the anteaters.
Every day that passes, I feel myself growing more distant from the world above. Each meteoric tongue that craters down and sucks with it the life that here has been lived makes me feel emptier and emptier. At this point,
a bug general enters and announces that we have secured the location of both the anteaters' royal laboratory and the location where the anteater emperor is staying for that night, and that they need a decision on where to mount the rhino beetles.
For the laboratory or the emperor.
Yeah.
And the word laboratory, Lazarus kind of perks up and is like, yes, the laboratory. I want to be on the front lines. Bring me there now. A bunch of improvisers playing dumb beetles run out and physically lift the improviser playing Lazarus into the air and drop Lazarus down in the middle of the anteater's lab. There is a vial there labeled the antidote.
Looking for something? A voice.
A voice in the distance. I'm looking for something. Lazarus turns around, grabs the bottle, and tries to back up. And this
older, very old, all white looking anteater steps in with a bit of a jolly smile and a more curious disposition.
Hmm. Ah, I see. And once again, the machinery of war has decided to co-opt the pure inventions of science. um, they have this dialogue uh, over the course of it. The anteater talks about how this elixir of life was just meant to create more and more joy for people. But in fact, that's what this whole war has been being fought over. And now, now it's killed more like countless people.
And one line as we wrap that the anteater throws in is that he wishes he could just see his son Tully again.
You dirty rat. Okay. What's happening in Baby Town? The baby's just uncapped this marker.
Right. Baby has just uncapped the marker. I think we open to a just the mother, and she is tied up with jump ropes and weighed down with teddy bears on some sort of chair. And she looks around her and she sees the scrawlings of some maniac written upon the wall with theories of parenthood, theories of selflessness, reasons for wanting to break some sort of cycle. All of these musings that take the things that the parents were discussing in the first scene to a logical and maybe dark conclusion.
Yeah, well, let's start. What were some of those things that they were discussing in the first scene?
Their parents weren't prepared for having them, and so they want to break that cycle. And so one thing that might be on the wall is the inevitability of the cycle eventually repeating itself.
Yeah, another thing that's on the wall is the feeling that parents have where suddenly there's a new life that you would be willing to die for to take care of.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, the mother is freaking out. A voice of the baby starts coming through the loudspeaker and talking to her, asking her questions about her husband and saying like, look, he doesn't believe you. He doesn't trust you. He thinks you're crazy. And she's like, no, he loves me. He knows me. We've been together for all this long. And the baby's like, does he really love you? I'm the only one who loves you. And all this kind of like intense stuff. This conversation peaks with the mother being like, no, he like I know that like our relationship is still intact. And then all of a sudden the baby's like, are you willing to test it? And like out of the teddy bear on the wall, you suddenly see extended little like baby cam and then project on a screen another room where the baby himself is like tied up to a chair with crazy writing all around him. And both of those are being projected to the father, who is driving in his car trying to get to like the police station or something, and he's seeing this on his phone.
Yeah.
And then the scene and then this disembodied robotic voice and you don't know, this pre-recorded gives him a command that's like, you have to you have to choose, and he's got to end with that. And the mother's like, oh my god, and she's like, oh my god, my baby, he's all tied up, like, are you okay? And the baby looks at her and goes with a signature smile. And then the father's face comes onto the cam.
Nice. So what's getting eliminated?
Sorry, Tully is not convincing enough. What were we gonna miss? What were we gonna miss with the antidote?
You fool! You fool! The lack of specifics with respect to time and the dilation and the sort of absurdism of what was happening there is going to come to a head when uh instead of going straight back to bring the antidote to his father, Lazarus was going to solve all of the geopolitics of the Wonder Mine between the ants and the anteaters and all the other related bugs. And he was going to come back to his father and he was going to realize that this only happened in a day. And whoa, what the heck? That only happened in one day. What?
And what was going to happen with him and
Crazy.
his father? Was he going to save his father?
Yeah, he was going to save his father. And his father was going to be super buff and epic. You missed that.
But don't be too disappointed because you're about to see what happens in the final scene of the test.
The test. Yeah, the test. Uh, so we start pretty much where we left off, not too far, but with the appearance of what's happening here on the father's phone or whatever, instead of going to the police, it's a hard U-turn back to the house.
Yeah, hard. Okay, hard U-turn back to the house. He's driving there trying to save them, and the voice comes on. It's like, "I'm sorry, you don't have time to save them. You must make your decision now." Or actually, maybe they're in two different locations.
Yeah, nice
He's like, do you drive towards the mother is tied up in your home, and the baby is tied up in your grandparents' home, because that's where the father dropped the baby off for safekeeping.
We have a split scene where the father is in the middle, driving the car. All players are kind of equally spaced, sitting in their respective chairs, and the like auditory baby monitor is coming through such that they're all able to hear and speak to one another.
I think this has to be an intense conversation between the mother and the father, being like, "Don't you trust me? Like, remember when we fall in love?" I want to see like a flashback to some moment when they're younger, talking like when they're first meeting at the relationship, talking about how they both had sort of fucked up parenting situations. And seeing that was one of the things that bonded them at the beginning, was like of their shared trauma from their own parenting situation. And talking about how that led to a lot of distrust and how they both really need someone that they can trust. And maybe there's some like key word established there, or like something, but like crucially, I think the father should turn like the car towards the baby, at the intersection. And then the mother, like, who's up until now been saying like the baby's crazy, like, should be like suddenly have some big emotional confession. And then maybe being like, okay, like, I maybe this is my fault. Like, I gave the baby like a little, I didn't let it, like some little thing that maybe went wrong. But she's like, but I swear that was the only thing. Everything after that has been, and she's like, but I still love it. Like, you should still go to the baby. Even after all this. And the baby's like, what? And the baby's like, and maybe then the baby, like, sees that, and then suddenly the voice is like the voice like frees the baby, and it's clear the baby's gonna be okay. And the dad like turns the car around, screeching through some crazy highway, to get to the mother, and they runs in, he unties her, they collapse and embrace. At that moment, I want there to be like big confetti cannons, and then like 4 or 5 like large babies in like official like uniforms to come like waddling out from every door of the house and being like, congratulations, like you passed, and you're now ready to have a baby. And I want the babies to lead them to like a big like bed. And be like, now have a baby, and everyone go, yay. That's just
Wow.
what I want.
No, that's awesome. And that's what happened. That's what happened in the scene. And that was the super scene.
Um, yeah. And obviously in like a real super scene, it would be hard to like, some of these
Yeah,
hits would
play
be
these
difficult to
things. Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah.
But next week we're gonna jump right into an actual practice run, so you can see how it would work in action.
Yeah, and this was honestly so fun. Yeah, Super Scene I enjoyed a lot, and these were some great stories.
Yeah, and I hope you take this as an exercise to do, even if it's just with your friends. Like this is a fun thing to build together, but it's a very useful just to step back and get good at that sort of spontaneous narrative planning and sensing out which of the scenes are like, that one's not good. I feel like this is a very good representation of some of the scenes that got eliminated. We're like, is that really? Oh fuck! Actually, the end of that baby scene needed to end with the signature baby smile.
I was thinking about maybe a tender baby smile rather than the
Yeah.
wicked baby smile.
So maybe they're like, you're ready for the baby, and then they bring out the baby like in its real like outfit, and then they give it to them, and the baby and they're holding it, and the baby is.
Yeah, I think so. We had a good variety too, and we also had some scenes that had interesting like different structures to them. So yeah, I totally agree. It had like a pretty representative hit rate of a normal super scene.
I'm not sure how good the variety was.
I think we we
a
had
lot of different places, but we were hitting one tone in particular.
Okay, sure. It was, yeah, we definitely have our tone, but that's just something to, I think, anybody who's hearing this and thinking like, oh, what can I take from this other than just like listening and maybe enjoying or just having thoughts about the stories that we told, is try to think about whatever axes that you can vary on. So yeah, we could have stood to vary more on tone, but I think we did vary on kind of setting and maybe structure.
All right, that was tons of fun. Let's end it here. Without further ado, this has been Muprov
Musings. So my sign off is I was just such a troll on an airplane recently, in a way that, like, so my brother and I had joked about this before I flew back from home to Michigan, where I am right now, because we had went to Daiso. Do you know Daiso?
Mm.
It's like think about like a Japanese like Dollar Tree, basically. Like it's a lot of kind of like cheap snacks and little like knickknacks and stuff, but it's like imports from Japan. And they opened one in my hometown, and my mom and I went, and we got a bunch of snacks. And in particular, we got a lot of like sort of like seafood based snacks that like have pretty strong odors to them. And my brother and I had joked about like, oh, like if you like your person next to you is going to hate you if you start eating your shrimp chips on the plane. And so I intended not to eat the shrimp chips because the shrimp chips were pretty fragrant in a way that, yeah, I would be a little perturbed about if I wasn't trying to smell that. But I grabbed the wrong bag out of my bag and I started eating it because I thought it was like the just like normal chip thing. But then I realized like 4 chips in that it was the shrimp chips. And I had even intended, I just hogged out on the plane too, because I had intended to like give some of the snacks that I had to like, some of the people in Michigan as little gifts, like, oh, it's been a while since we saw each other. But I also just like tanked all of the snacks. I ate all of the snacks. I had like 4 bags of stuff and like big bags, and I just surely ate all the snacks. And I felt bad for the people next to me in hindsight, because it was loud as I was rustling through the bags, and it smelled, but it was delicious, and I loved it.
Did anyone comment or look at you, or?
I think it's in particular, like I really stuff my backpack, like that I use as my personal item, under the plane seat. And so whenever I was grabbing something, I really had to wrestle with it. And whenever that was happening, they would kind of look over and
and be like, oh no.
Especially because I'm like, okay, I like pull out the shrimp chips and I eat them, but then I like wrestle again to get another big bag of some other kind of chip, and I'm eating that, and they're all very crunchy, and I don't know.
Wow. You were escalating.
I was escalating. They were like, really? This guy's got 4 big bags of random snacks for me to hear and smell.
Wow. I'm proud of you, Julian. I think that it takes a certain level of like, I guess you are aware, so that you can still build in that unawareness, but you have a lot of social courage.
Yeah, that's a courageous story. That's how I'd like to describe this, as a courageous story of victory.
Yeah, you really won that airplane ride. Do you think that the karmic cycle is going to come for you in some way?
Totally, 100%. Because I'm always just kind of perturbed in general on airplanes. I don't like them that much. I don't like having to get up for people when they have to go to the bathroom. I bet that's going to happen to me. I guess someone, could pull out some sort of fragrant thing that would perturb me. But I also, just to get out the whole airplane spiel, it's just crazy the movies that they have on the airplane TV, because there's so many movies that you wouldn't watch. They had like Challengers on the airplane TV, right? You're not going to watch Challengers on an airplane when you're sitting next to people.
What?
Huh?
What?
What?
Why would you not watch Challengers on?
It's just like there's a lot of like sex and stuff in the movie.
But that's fine to watch unless you're sitting next to like a little kid or something like that.
I don't know. I feel like you should. I don't know. I feel like it's good courtesy, even if it's just anybody, to not watch like, super violent or, sexual movies, I guess.
I don't know. I was recently on an airplane, and everybody on the airplane was watching Mad Max.
Yeah. I mean, that one's like maybe fantastical enough where it's like, okay, but I wouldn't watch like, I don't know, just like a gritty crime drama.
All right. Well, so you still have some social bravery.
Yeah, maybe I should be flipping this social bravery. Maybe I should be entitled to watch whatever movie I want on the plane, but not entitled to do what I did.
All right, let's end it up with what movie did you watch?
Oh, that's actually a wonderful question. I really was like, I scrolled through everything and I was like, I don't want to watch anything. I hate all of this. But I definitely put something on at some point. But I fell asleep, which was the good thing. What I definitely watched was on my iPad. I have saved some YouTube videos that I like, and I watched those YouTube videos by Connor O'Malley.
Oh, wow. Well, if you're wondering what I watched on my recent plane ride, I watched. I was thinking about Julian recently did a puzzle with Danny Zuko, and I had never seen Grease, so I watched Grease. And I've been trying to work through like classic movies that I hadn't seen, and then I watched most of Goldfinger. That movie is. Have you seen Goldfinger?
No.
It's ridiculous. I didn't quite realize like how many of the James Bond tropes were like sandwiched into that one movie. They've got the laser beam like going through the table to kind of the plot of Goldfinger is that Goldfinger is he has a bunch of gold that he's been smuggling illegally by building a fancy car entirely out of gold and driving it around. And he's trying to break into Fort Knox and detonate a nuke.
What?
So that all of the U.S. gold supply is radioactive and can't be used, and the value of his gold goes up.
That's crazy.
So I don't know, and it's got some problematic stuff that you couldn't do today.
Sure.
Also, like,
What?
Bond keeps on, like, he like, I knew he was flirting with everybody, but like, to the detriment of like the people he's flirting with keep on like dying throughout the movie, like pretty brutally, and he's like sociopathically unperturbed by the fact that him sleeping with these people is like killing them, and the villains are being converted from their villainness by his sexiness.
And as the final part of the sign off, how did you feel that this Bond's performance compared to any other Bond performance?
This is my first Bond movie that I've seen.
Oh, this is your first Bond movie? Okay.
That's what I meant. I was like, I had no idea what I was getting into, because I thought about doing improvised spy for a while, so I was like, I want to see what this is like, and I was like, oh my god, this is really like an improv an improv show in terms of the plot.
That's funny.
Oh, can't you see me now? Can't you see me now? Like you did back then. Can't you see me now? I remember way back when. Oh, and times they are changing. You know, things are rearranging. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now? Everything is changing. Can't you see me now? Can't you see me now?